Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing awesome out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a fantastic beginning to your weekend out there, if it is the beginning of your weekend. Here to break down the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Friday. We'll talk about a couple areas that we need to certainly be aware of that run the risk of strong to severe storms, even a more heightened tornado risk in areas of like Louisiana and Arkansas that we need to zoom into and talk about. A little bit of a flooding risk that we'll discuss also. So we'll break down all that in great detail like we always do, talk about the entire rest of the lower 48. And then after that, we'll talk about the days to come as far as severe weather risk per the Storm Prediction Center. And then we'll give you an update on the tropics. We're going to start to occasionally do that and throw that into these videos every few days. Even if there's nothing to really latch on to and talk about, we'll kind of just give you an update on what's going on out there in the Atlantic Basin. We'll actually give you an update from the National Hurricane Center. And of course, once there is something to talk about, we obviously will be talking about it a lot more than what we have been over the last week or so. So we'll start to do that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and others can do so too. Did not get a chance to get to the comments yesterday, and most likely I won't be able to get to the comments throughout the rest of the weekend. I do have today off. We're actually going to a water park, so asking for prayers for safe travels to that water park, as we have to drive about an hour away, then an hour back. Unfortunately, here in South Carolina, well, fortunately, it's a beautiful day. Unfortunately, it's a little bit cooler for the last day of May standards here in South Carolina. Temperatures only in the low 80s. Very low humidity, so it's going to be a little bit nippy getting out in that water, but at least we'll have bright sunshine. That'll help and all that good stuff. So asking for prayers for that. And I appreciate the comments with the video I made last night about my storm chase. It took me a while. It took me a while to put that together, and I felt like it came together pretty good. Looking forward to really tweaking things in the future with those videos, making them a little bit better as far as the presentation and stuff like that. But I am looking forward to really documenting my journey with storm chasing in that kind of format, if that makes sense. So let's get rocking and rolling. So a lot of moisture over the central portion of the country. We got a nasty line of storms. It was forecasted pretty well, sweeping across southeastern Texas, and this is bringing damaging winds, maybe a risk of a large hail, and no tornadoes, no tornado warnings right now, just severe thunderstorm warning. We got scattered rain across Arkansas. I mean, all the way up the plains, all the way up into the Midwest, upper Midwest this morning. Even some flash flood warnings ongoing. No shortage of rain up here in this region this year so far. So that's good. A little bit of storm activity right off the coast of the Outer Banks. So if you're out here and waking up this morning in the Outer Banks, you're probably waking up to, a pretty good visual of that storm. It's always cool, when you wake up or you go to sleep. That's the coolest thing is you vacation at the beach, the sun's going down, you can look out in the ocean, you can see a big old thunderstorm popping off lightning bolts from your hotel balcony. I always thought that was the coolest thing as a kid, and I still think it's one of the cooler things that you get to experience. But the western U.S. is pretty quiet. It's just really the middle of the country. The watches and warnings map, advisories, I just got that severe thunderstorm watch down here in Texas. You got the flood watches up here in the green with more rain expected, heat advisories in southern Texas. Everybody else, I mean, pretty chill, not a whole lot going on. The excessive rainfall outlook in the entire yellow area, that is at least a 15% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance, kind of some of the similar regions as yesterday. So certainly be aware of that. And then we move to the Storm Prediction Center outlook. Two slight risks. One here in the high plains of Colorado, western Kansas, panhandle of Oklahoma, Texas, and then northeastern New Mexico. And then we got one draped across down here into southern sections, central and south central sections of Texas, into Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and even just east of the Mississippi River here in Mississippi. So level 2 out of 5 risk here. And here, what is this driven off of? The tornado risk. You do got a little 2% risk right in here, and a much larger one down here with a little small 5% risk of a tornado. This was larger yesterday. They've shrunk it down. Just south of Little Rock, just northeast of Shreveport, just northwest of Jackson. That does include Greenville, Mississippi. But if you live here in this region right here, 5% risk of a tornado. So a little bit more of a heightened risk here for sure. So the wind threat, Two areas to watch that have a 15% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat, a little bit smaller. Two areas to watch for a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The southeast today, and then we'll kind of zoom into those areas here in a second. The immediate southeast, like the Carolinas, Georgia, up to Virginia. Virginia is mostly considered the mid-Atlantic, but you get what I mean here. Still covered up by a return flow. So dry air is going to limit any moisture that tries to move in from the west to the east. But back here with our friends here in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, still a lot of low-level moisture in place. It's still in place and will continue to get more and more rich as we move into the next couple of days in the weekend. But we're getting into this afternoon, a lot of shower and storm activity down here near Louisiana, southwestern Mississippi especially, scattered activity up here in Arkansas. And we'll have to watch these storms into here that could produce a tornado for sure. So you notice how when the rain starts to get into central Tennessee, Alabama, it really starts to fade out. That's because there's a lot of dry air eating up all this moisture. So you're just not getting a lot of storm activity into Alabama points east really at all. But you continue to move forward here, and we'll get more storms that fire up along the Louisiana coastline, the Bayou of Louisiana, and then a lot of just, I would say, a steady stream of rain. Once again, to some of these same similar regions that already have picked up a lot of rain here in central and in west central Tennessee. You got northern sections of Alabama, Mississippi, western Kentucky, all the way up into Illinois. And this will continue, and then as we're waking up tomorrow morning, some moist air begins to replace some of that dry air a little bit further east, and we got this shower and storm activity here in Mississippi. A little bit closer look at all this. And, as we start to get into this afternoon, could get some big thunderstorms down here. Just a closer look at this, if you live near Alexandria over the Jackson, Mississippi, and as this continues, could get pretty active later on this afternoon in this area, especially southwestern Mississippi. But you want to watch this little area right here that's, favored for maybe a spin up or two. If any kind of isolated discrete cells could form in here after this main push of convection, you're certainly, like you see right here, this is around 9 p.m. Watch out for this storm. This is right in that 5% risk area or around it. You definitely want to be aware of this. What is that, Monroe, Louisiana right here? Certainly be aware in southern Arkansas. A brief spin up is possible, a tornado. You do got the 5% risk. So we'll see if they maintain that in later updates. Then we got those other, hefty storms down here along the Louisiana coastline that starts to get going here. And then we wake up tomorrow morning with just a lot of shower and storm activity across the mid and deep south. And there's that updraft Felicity swath. It doesn't show much in that 5% risk area. And don't get me wrong, the updraft Felicity swath doesn't always tell the story. And I think with whatever tornadoes are forming in this area, if any do, I think there will be low top tornadoes, which typically do not show up well in the updraft Felicity swath because stronger, taller updrafts are going to be the things that show up on this particular map here. So, it shows it more down here where you have stronger storms. Up here, it's not going to symbolize it very well. Rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, just a washout. 3 to 4 inches of rain is possible in sections of Arkansas. 1 to 3 inches of rain for extreme western Mississippi down to Louisiana. Notice how it dramatically cuts off, and then it gets to nothing once you get over here to like Birmingham, Alabama. That is because there's a lot of dry air eating up all this moisture, at least between now and the next 24 hours. So the Northeast, pretty chill weather today. You're going to continue just to get calm weather. Might be a little chilly in areas, but you get into this afternoon, could get some downstream showers, maybe a thunderstorm that kind of drifts back down into Maine. These could produce some small hail with cold air aloft in place. But I would say Maine is the only state in the Northeast today that really runs, I would say, any kind of risk of any shower or storm activity. Outside of that, everybody else, pretty nice day. South Central U.S., we got a lot of activity ongoing right now. This area of storms will actually slam Houston here in an hour or two. Okay, so be aware of this if you live in Houston. And then it'll actually wrap, kind of dip down to the northwestern Gulf of Mexico, and this will actually be what affects Louisiana that we just showed you later on this afternoon as it gets pushed and pulled back into Louisiana out the Gulf of Mexico. And we'll certainly have to watch these storms here, another area of storms. That's why you do have that slight risk a little bit further back west in Texas. You have to watch this other area of storms. This is around 2 to 3 o'clock this afternoon. Could affect like San Antonio, Austin, And then this could make it back all the way down to Houston again this evening, maybe Corpus Christi. Certainly watch out between those areas. You definitely want to be aware of that. And then we could get some storms that could form and definitely, get to severe limits across eastern Colorado, western sections of Kansas, the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, and eastern New Mexico. Once again, kind of storms will form in these regions just a little bit more west compared to yesterday's shower and storm activity. So definitely be aware of that. I could tell you, I know this is kind of, an outside topic, but these kind of setups are like a storm chaser's dream out here. You go out here, it's kind of wide open fields. A lot of times you get beautiful storm structure. If you've been following any storm chasers the last couple of days, I haven't really been much, just been a crazy week. But if you notice, you're getting a lot more shots of these beautiful supercells, that you see in like magazines. And that's how it is out here in the high plains. And this is kind of one of your best setups. It's normally a lower risk of tornadoes, but occasionally you do get one, like you have the last couple of days. But it's normally one or two storms that are forming one. The other ones are just beautiful structured storms. And the good news is way out here, it's not as highly populated regions, but, at the same time, you never know when one of these storms are going to hit, a couple houses or something like that, a farm or somewhere out here. So, definitely be aware if you live out here, powerful storms, and then this will all drift eastward throughout the overnight hours. Rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, scattered rains across the central and southern plains, but certainly more widespread rains down here once again in Texas, where you could get 1 to 2, maybe as much as 3 inches of rain down here in central Texas. So be aware of that. Up here in the north central U.S., rains across areas of Nebraska, South Dakota. Kind of a lot going on here. We'll take it just all the way out to about 2 to 3 p.m. this afternoon. Storms across eastern Nebraska, western sections of Iowa, the southern half of Minnesota. Still some showers back here. And South Dakota, showers and storms kind of making their way, skirting across northern Wisconsin, the western UP. I don't think these are going to really be intense storms. Some of them could reach severe limits. Right now, just a general risk of thunderstorms up in this region, but it does show widespread strong to severe storms over this entire region right here. Kind of the sections of those states that I just mentioned, and could group up into kind of a line of storms later this evening. Definitely going to get some rain for your, Friday evening shenanigans here in Minneapolis. Certainly possible. Some storms possible also down here in central Iowa. And then, just steadily streaming over the same areas. This area could get a good little bit of rain today for sure. So we'll watch out for that. And then, thank you for greeting us there. And then you continue to get into tomorrow morning. You could be waking up to some rain down here in Chicago. Western U.S., pretty much quiet. Not a whole lot to speak on out here at all. Quiet all the way through, getting into the overnight hours. Maybe some showers up there near the Olympic Mountains in northwestern Washington State. Outside of that, folks, pretty nice start to your weekend out here for sure. Temperatures, I said it was a little bit cool in the northeast, but honestly, it's pretty nice. Temperatures in the 60s. You can't really beat that. I know it's always hard to firmly get into summertime up here. It seems like if there's an area of the country that lags the most of getting to summertime temperatures, it's certainly the Northeast, but it's just the way it is when you live that far north. But the Southeast, 70s and 80s, even cool down here, for the last day of May standards. Florida, getting into the 80s and 90s, still very hot. And you just got rain-cooled air over the middle of the country. Some people won't get out the 60s or 70s. Some will get into the 80s. Depends on if rain is affecting your area. The entire northern section of the country is on the more cooler side, but still very comfortable. We're just getting to that time of the year. It's June 1st is tomorrow. You don't really see any cold temperatures anymore. You really don't, unless you're way up in higher elevations. But the Southwest, it is starting to get hot. The valley regions of California, somebody's going to hit 100 degrees most likely today. It's definitely warming up down here. Phoenix, Las Vegas, starting to really get hot. Temperatures well into the 90s for sure. So going forward, the day 2 outlook, which is for tomorrow or Saturday. I got my days mixed up. I keep thinking today's Saturday. But right up the central and southern high plains once again. Level 2 out of 5, risk of severe weather. Watch out Denver in this setup. So once again, it's going to get lit up in this region. And then there is a huge marginal risk that dips all the way back down to Texas, all the way down across the deep south up the Mississippi Valley area. So risk of severe weather for tomorrow, no doubt, for a pretty large area of the country. 2% risk of a tornado down here and up here. The wind threat, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then a hail threat. Watch out in Denver, especially, literally just east of Denver. This area and basically eastern Colorado is notorious for some absolutely nasty hailstorms. And I think tomorrow could be that afternoon, evening that you need to watch out for that, as you do have the hatch risk of hail. And the, sorry, I keep scratching my nose, guys. Something is really just itching my nose. 10% risk of significant hail. So, and then we get into Sunday. All right, there's a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather stretching from extreme northern Kansas all the way up here to sections of the Dakotas and western Minnesota. So you got to watch out for that. That means there's a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in a given location. But a large area of the country runs the risk of thunderstorms also. And then we get into Monday. It says predictability too low all the way out, all the way through. So as of now, not anything massive that we were watching. And really over the next few days, it's nothing crazy or anything like that. But certainly some severe weather days out ahead of us. But as of now, going into next week, the only thing that I'm watching, and I discussed this in yesterday morning's video, is a ridge that's going to build and we're going to get some northwest flow. I'm going to have a video about that sometime, one of these evenings this weekend, whether it's going to be this evening, tomorrow evening. I doubt it'll be this evening. It might be tomorrow evening or Sunday evening. I'm going to have a video about the pattern coming up and what I'm watching here, but there's nothing on the outlook from day 4 on out. National Weather Service update, nothing on here to discuss. No tropical activity expected not only in the next 48 hours, but the next 7 days. So there's no highlighted regions, no areas of interest out there right now. I am not really watching anything. This is the European, okay? Obviously the green indicates moisture. The L is a low pressure. And just your typical flow out there in the Atlantic. The only area that I would say that I am watching is maybe in the Caribbean, where we could get some moisture that consolidates somewhere in the Caribbean, tries to form some sort of low, tries to do something weird. I wouldn't call it weird because this is pretty usual for this time of the year. But the European model doesn't really latch on to this idea. I know you see this up here, but this is more so just a regular, just low pressures coming off the mainland. Nothing too crazy with this at all, with no tropical features to them. But you keep going. You get into late next week, still nothing. And I really don't see nothing between now and the next 10 days. Okay. I see a lot going on in the mainland here in the lower 48. And we're going to discuss that, like I said, in a couple of videos. But I'm not really seeing anything right now out here. I know a lot of people follow this channel for tropical updates, and thank you for that. But, certainly don't want to just continuously make an update if there's really nothing to speak on. But I'm going to do it a few times a week until there is. But the GFS has just been a little bit more aggressive with a low forming early next week here in the Caribbean, bringing a lot of rains to the Greater Antilles, the larger islands of the Caribbean, and then getting north of them into the Southwest Atlantic, trying to do something, but it's probably overdone. The GFS typically overdoes things. It does things with these kind of setups that it typically isn't right. I cannot speak this morning to save my life. I don't know why. But you get into around this time next week, week out, still nothing going on. We get into about 10 days out, still nothing going on. So, we are watching just periodic tropical waves down here. You just want to watch those. Guys, my idea, this is my take on hurricane season. I don't make long-range forecasts. I think that we're going to have more of your traditional start to hurricane season. I think that when it starts, I think that has the potential not to stop. So, it seems like over the last several years, we've had some sort of early season tropical system in like May or certainly June. And then we kind of get a drop off somewhat and nothing really happens for maybe several weeks. I think that once we get going, it could just be a chain reaction out there, but we'll see what happens. That's all I got. Did a video in only under 20 minutes for once, so that's always good. God bless everybody. Let me get off this video because I cannot speak this morning. God bless all y'all. You have a wonderful day.